Amud is Chav Zayin Amud Aleph, but we're holding still a few lines before the end of Chav Vav Amud Beis. So, again, we were in the middle of the discussion over here about clothes from other materials besides wool or linen, whether they could be Mekabel Tuma. So we had two Tanoim which said that wool and linen are the only materials that could be Mekabel Tuma, but the expression they used was different. Reb Shimon ben Elazar said that only wool or linen is Mekabel the Tuma from such a small measurement as 3 by 3 thumb breadths. And Tanit Vei Rabbi Shmuel said that only wool and linen, I mean, it didn't say it clearly. They said that by tzaras, it says that only wool and linen could receive tumas tzaras. From there we learned that everywhere else that the Torah speaks about clothes, it also means wool and linen. So we assumed, simply understanding that we're talking about other tumas. So basically he says that other tumas, any other material is not mekabel tumah. Abaye took it that when Reb Shimon ben Elazar said that only wool and linen could receive tumah from 3 by 3 thumbs, it didn't mean only 3 by 3 thumbs. It means that only wool and linen could receive tumah, which is the exact same thing as Tanit Vei Rabbi Shmuel. And we're proving it from tzaras, that it's very specific. It's only tzemer pishtim, and from that we can learn to all of the tumas. It's very, very specific, only tzemer pishtim. Rava said no. Rava said that it's a machlokes. Tanit Vei Rabbi Shmuel holds that only wool and linen can receive any tumah. However, Reb Shimon ben Elazar holds that other materials could receive tumah, but the special chiddush that 3 by 3 etzvos can receive tumah, that does not apply to other materials. That's what Rava holds. Now we went on to explain in length Tanit Vei Rabbi Shmuel's opinion that other materials are not mekabel tumah at all, which according to Abaye, that's what Reb Shimon ben Elazar holds as well. Now Rava presented Reb Shimon ben Elazar with a new twist, that he holds that other materials cannot receive tumah from 3 by 3 etzvos, but could receive from 3 by 3 tefachim and a full clothing. So the question was, where did that come from? If we learn from tzaras that only wool or linen could receive tumah, so it should apply to all measurements. And if we don't learn, then even 3 by 3 thumb breadths should also receive tumah. Where did that division come from? So that's what we're holding now, 4 lines from the bottom in Chav Vav Amud Beis. Uli Rava da Amar Rava that holds shloisha al shloisha b'shar begodim, 3 by 3 tefachim and onwards. In other materials, Ikabinai is a difference between Reb Shimon ben Elazar and Tanit Vei Rabbi Shmuel. The Reb Shimon ben Elazar Isla, he says that they are mekabel tumah. The Tanit Vei Rabbi Shmuel, Leslie, the Bryce of Rabbi Shmuel's yeshiva holds that they're not mekabel tumah. Shloisha al shloisha b'shar begodim in nolai. What's the source that other materials could receive tumah if it's larger than 3 by 3 tefachim? If we learn out from tzaras, it should seemingly apply to all measurements, not just a 3 by 3 thumb breadths. Answers the Gemara, Nafka, we learn it out, mi oi beged. When it speaks about shrotzim, the creatures that when they die make things tummy. So that make things tummy. So the Torah says over there that if it touches a clothing, it makes it tummy. Too much shrotzim makes a clothing tummy. But the lashon is oi beged. Oi is an additional word. It should have said. What should it have said? 1 second. How it could have written ubeged, or it could have said it's beged or I don't know how they would how you could exactly divide. It sounds like you could have written ubeged, which automatically would mean it, or, like whenever it says it and, it doesn't mean you have to have a. It says klietz ubeged. You don't have to have a wooden utensil and a clothing attached to it. It obviously means this or that. But the Torah adds an extra aleph to tell you that there's another type of beged that you wouldn't think is mekabel tuma, and it's still mekabel tuma. And we have a source for that. The Tanya, there's a brayso which says that beged. It says about shirotzim. Beged, ainli elo beged. I only know that this applies to the typical beged that the Torah usually relates to, which is wool or linen. Shloisha b'sh'ar begodim inayim. How do I know that other materials from 3 by 3 tvachim, which, as Tosfos said earlier, is logically included in clothing? How do I know that also that is mekabel tuma? Talmud lemer oy beged. The oy adds that other materials are also tum. 1 second. Second. Yeah, okay. So Rashi does not say this word detanya, that it's a brisa, because if it's a brisa, then the whole argument between Abaye and Rava doesn't fit. Abaye is trying to say that there's no such an opinion which says that other materials are mekabel tuma from 3 by 3 tvachim, and we have a clear brisa which says that. So Rashi erases the word detanya. It's not a brisa. It's not a brisa. It's Rava explaining himself. So Abaye, hi oy beged my ovidlein. Abaye, since this is not a brayse, since this is Rava's chiddush, but it's an extra word in the pasuk, which would include other materials. What is Abaye going to do with that extra word? He needs that extra word. To add that 3 by 3 thumbras, 3 by 3 good linen, wool and linen, the mitame b'shrotzim. Although we had a pasuk earlier which said that saras, if there's a 3 by 3 thumbras piece of cloth which received saras, it's mekabel tuma. I would think only saras. I wouldn't think that it applies to tuma shrotzim, to other tumas. Comes the pasuk oy beged to tell me that 3 by 3 etzvos is also mekabel tuma. So according to Rav, we learn from oy other materials, and according to Abaye, we learn the small measurement of 3 by 3 etzvos. Rava, what is Rava going to say about that? Rava is going to say we don't need a pasuk. Gali rachmana gabi negoyim. The Torah taught us by tzaras that even 3 by 3 etzvos is mekabel tuma. V'adin l'shratzim is a binyan av, as we said earlier. Once the Torah tells us a halacha in one topic, we apply it to anything similar. So if this tuma applies to 3 by 3 etzvos, it's already called a clothing, I could apply it to any other one as well. Abaye says no. Binyan av only works if you have no logic to contradict that. You could how do you say? You could shlug up. You could push off this svara, this comparison to the tzaras, and you could say that mal negoyim tzaras is different. Shekin siva eidem metami b'hem. We said earlier that a thread can also become tummy, and by other tumas it does not apply. By other tumas it has to be a clothing, a cloth, a useful cloth. So if there's a pasuk which teaches us that tzaras could be matame a small piece of cloth 3 by 3 etzvos, that does not mean that in other tumas that also applies. The idoch. So what is Rava going to answer back? If you hold, 1 second. If you hold that tzaras is more severe, so the Torah could have chosen the other way around. Let the Torah write oy beged by shrotzim, and that will teach us that 3 by 3 etzvos is metame by other shrotzim. And I would learn tzaras from it, which tzaras is more strict. V'idach, what is Abaye going to answer back? I'll summarize in a second. The other way around, they can't either learn because there's something more strict in shiratzim. I could tell you, I could push off the comparison. Mal is shiratzim. Shiratzim are different. The size of tumah is very small, as the size of a lentil. However, the size of tzaras, in other words, if the piece of meat of this creature, the size of a lentil, touched anything, it already makes a tummy. However, tzaras, the green or red speck, has to be at least the size of a gris. That's a bean, a larger bean, a square bean, whatever it is, a larger bean, larger than a lentil, and therefore that tells us that there's something more. If a smaller size could make something tummy, that means it's more strict. So that tells me that there's something more strict in shiratzim, so I cannot learn either way. So what is Rava going to do about that? 1 second. Okay, so the point is like this. Rava is not answering the question. Rava is like questioning Abaye, but he's not answering the question. So let me just summarize it. Yeah. There's a pasuk by shiratzim, by clothes which touched flesh of certain creatures, that says that oi beged, an additional type of clothing which you wouldn't have thought, can become tam. What does that oi beged mean? Says Abaye, says Rava, other materials. Says Abaye, no, the same material, the smallest measurement, 3 by 3 etzvos. Says Rava, but by tzaras, it already says that 3 by 3 etzvos is tummy. Says Abaye, you can't compare. Tzaras is more strict. Tzaras can become tummy from threads. Says Rava, he's not answering the question. It's a good point, but he's telling him no. If the Torah would not have written it by tzaras because it's more strict, why didn't they write it by shiratzim and learn tzaras from it? Says Abaye, because from another aspect, shiratzim is more strict. Because the size of a sheretz which can make a tummy is a smaller size, the size of a lentil. And by tzaras has to be the size of a gris, which is a larger beam. And that's it, that's the end of the discussion. But Rava stays with this point. Why is that? Because Rava says no. When the Torah says, V'habeged by tzaras, which therefore we include 3 by 3 etzvos, it's not just an extra letter which tells us an extra halacha. It's teaching us what the word means. It's teaching us that the beged means the cloth the size of 3 by 3 etzvos. Once the Torah translates so the word beged, so I can't say it's more strict over here, it's not as strict in a different case, so you can't compare. We're not learning a halacha one from another. We're learning the translation of the word. And therefore Abaye has a good point at the end of the day. Tzaras has something more strict than shiratzim, and shiratzim has something more strict than tzaras. I can't learn either from the other. Good point. But I still hold that we could learn from tzaras. Because tzaras is teaching us what the word beged means. And once tzaras taught us that beged means even 3 by 3 etzvos. So when by shiratzim the Torah says oi beged, what is it coming to add? A different material. And therefore we do have a source that other materials can receive too. Fine. End of discussion. So Abaye and Rava have a machlokes whether Reb Shimon ben Elazar holds that other materials can receive tumah if it's larger than 3 by 3 tfachim or full clothing. Abaye says no. Rava says yes. And they both seem to agree that Tanat Vei Rabbi Shmuel holds that other materials cannot receive tumah at all. Now, since they both agreed that Tanat Vei Rabbi Shmuel holds that no other materials receive any tumah, Abaye has a problem. Abaye is going to find a different Tanat Vei Rabbi Shmuel. Abaye is wrong according to both of them, Abaye and Rava. He's going to find a different Tanat Vei Rabbi Shmuel, different brayso in the same yeshiva, that says that other materials could receive tumah. So it's a contradiction between two braysos in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel. Amar Abaye says Abaye, Hi Tanat Vei Rabbi Shmuel, this brayso of the yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel, Mapi, contradicts Me'idach, another Tanat Vei Rabbi Shmuel. The Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel beged, it says by tzaras, that a clothing, not tzaras, by shrotzim, by things that touch the flesh of these creatures, that a clothing can receive tumah. I would naturally assume that this applies only to wool or linen, which is the typical clothing mentioned in Torah. How do I know that it would also include wool of camel wool, the tzemer arnovim and rabbit wool, and noitza shel izim, goats here, I make clothing out of it, v'ashirin, and expensive silk, v'aklach, and the cheaper silk, v'asarikin, and the very expensive silk, as we had earlier, all the different types of silk. Who said that all types of silk are also mekabel tumah? Talmud learned oy beged. That word oy beged, which is the same limud in a way that we said earlier, that oy beged, other materials are mekabel tumah. So it's contradicting the Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel before. So Abai says, yeah. I mean, they're just quoting two brises, and they're arguing. They had two brises of two different Tanaim which were arguing. Now, we don't like that, especially if in the same yeshiva they were quoting them both nameless, which would usually mean that they agreed to it. So how can they have two nameless brises which contradict each other? So Abai says, whatever, that's the situation. But Rav has a solution. Rav already said earlier that there's a possibility to say that 3x3 etzbois and other materials are not mekabel tumah. 3x3 tvachim are mekabel tumah. He was saying that earlier according to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. And he was saying earlier that Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel does not hold that. But he holds of such a concept. And now Abaye presented him with a contradiction. Says, Rabbi, I have a solution. Use that same answer I used by Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, apply to Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel. Which basically would mean now that I agree with you, Abaye, and I very much disagree with you. I agree with you that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar and Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel are not arguing, like you said, but the opposite from you. You said they're not arguing, they both hold that other materials are not mekabel tumah altogether. I said the exact opposite. That both of them hold that other materials are mekabel tumah from 3x3 tvachim. And they're only excluded from 3x3 etzbois. Let's get inside. Rava Amar, Ki leisle, when does he not hold lahach Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel? The first price of the yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel. Bish'ar begodim, that other clothes are mekabel tumah. Sholish al sholish, if it's 3x3 etzbois. Shloisha al shloisha, if it's 3x3 tvachim, isle. He does agree with it. Says the Gemara, how could you say that? Rava earlier said, Shloisha al shloisha bish'ar begodim, 3x3 tvachim by other materials. Reb Shimon ben Elazar isle. Reb Shimon ben Elazar holds that because he specified 3x3 etzbois. The Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel leslie. The Brais of Rabbi Shmuel's yeshiva would just said plainly that other materials are not mekabel tumah. It meant other materials are not mekabel tumah, full stop. So how could he now come and say that to solve the contradiction between the two Braises, that Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel also holds that 3x3 tvachim are mekabel tumah? Says the Gemara, Hadar be Rava me'ahi. Rava changed his mind from the earlier explanation because before he didn't know about the second Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel. So if he just read Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel's face value, he's saying that other materials are not mekabel tumah. But once you brought a contradiction to Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel, and he already holds that the logic of such a concept, they could make a difference between 3x3 etzbois or tvachim. Very fine. I have a solution. The solution is that etzbois not and not tvachim yet. So basically, they both hold that there's no argument. The question is what? Abai holds that everyone holds that other materials are not mekabel tumah, full stop. Besides this Tanna de Rabbi Shmuel, the second one which shows that they are mekabel tumah throughout, even 3x3 etzbois, I guess. And Rava says no. Everyone holds that 3x3 etzbois. No, 3x3 tvachim, yes. That is Rava's final answer. Says the Gemara, v'ibay same. If you want, I can tell you. Harav Papa Amra. The solution between the two brises was not said by Rava. it was misquoted. The name was misquoted. It was a very similar name. Instead of Rave, it was Rav Papa. Because we see that Rav Papa said something which would support this. Rav Papa, one second. So basically like this, there's the famous word that, they say that if you say Matzah Shabbos, a story of the Baal Shem Tov, it's a school of Parnasa. So they said Lav Dafke the Baal Shem Tov any tzaddik, Lav Dafke Matzah Shabbos anytime, Lav Dafke Parnasa. So, or whatever, the story that someone say, someone, was 2 billion pounds. He didn't win, he lost, and it wasn't 2 billion, it was 2 million. Yeah. So basically, the name was misquoted and the statement was misquoted. There was a quote of someone who gave a solution between the two brises. It wasn't Rava, it was Rav Papa. And it wasn't the answer you gave either, it was a different answer. The answer was not that one brisa is 3 etzbois, one is 3 tvachim. It was a whole different answer. So really, Rava stayed with his original opinion that there's a machloikis between Rabbi Shimon and Elazar and Tanit Rabbi Shmuel. And then he'll have to agree to Abai that there's a machloikis between one Tanit Rabbi Shmuel to the other Tanit Rabbi Shmuel. And that's it. And then Rav Papa offered a solution, a different solution. The solution was that the Brais of Tanit Rabbi Shmuel, which said that if tsaras is only wool and linen, so too all other halachas which mention clothings, it also says only wool and linen, and we assume which other halachas mention clothing, to tsaras. No, he's talking about a whole different halacha. He's talking about shatnez. Shatnez, it said that if you have clothing which are mixed from two materials, you're not allowed to wear them. It's only wool and linen, and we learned it out from tsaras. Let's see. The Rav Papa says, Afkol, when the Baraisa earlier said, just like tsaras is only wool and linen, also Afkol, also all other places are only wool and linen, it's not talking about Tumah. By Tumah, we have this other Baraisa which Tanit Rabbi Shmuel says that other materials are Kabul Tumah. What is it talking about? Lasei kilayim. It comes to talk about kilayim in a mixture of two materials. There's only wool and linen. Says the Gemara, kilayim. The Hedyak Sidibe. Shatnez, it clearly says in the Torah that it's only wool and linen. So why would he even think that other materials are a problem? Says the Gemara, no. I would think. Hani mili derech levisha. The Torah says lesil bashatnez tzemer ufishtim yachtav. When the Torah specifies that shatnez, that a mixture, is only talking about wool and linen, it there says the lashon lesil bash, not to wear as a clothing. So I would think when it's a clothing, then only wool and linen is a problem. And when it's worn as a clothing. Abel behalo, if you're just putting them on top of you, not dressing them properly, they're giving you some sort of a benefit, a pleasure, a warmth, it's protecting you from something, but you're not putting it on as a proper clothing. So I would think then, call Trimini Yosser. 1 second. There's two psukim. There's a pasuk which says "Beget kilayim shatnez lo yale olecha," which there doesn't say wool and linen, doesn't say tzemer upishtim. It should not be put on top of you. And then there's another pasuk which we're quoting over here, which says "Lesil bashatnez tzemer upishtim yachtav." We should not wear wool and linen mixed together. So I say, okay. Beget kilayim shatnez lo yale olecha. To put on top of you, not as a clothing. Any mixture is a problem. Sil b'shatnez, when is a problem of putting it on as a proper clothing? That's only tzemra pishtim yachid. And therefore, I would have thought that to put them on just, as a loose clothing, as a loose covering, not as a proper clothing, any two materials are a problem. And we have to learn that from tzuras. We have to learn from tzuras, just like there, tzuras only applies to tzemra and pishtim. So shatnez, whether you're wearing it as a clothing, whether you're just putting it on top of you, it only applies to tzemra and pishtim. Again, so I would have thought hani, meaning when is it only woolen linen derech levish if you're putting it as a clothing, have a balav, you're putting it on top of you not as a clothing, kol triminios. Any two materials are a problem. So therefore the pasuk has to teach me by tzaras that only woolen linen. So how can you say that? Let's say lesilvash only means a clothing, fine. But if a clothing which you're wearing properly and you're really benefiting from it, the Torah says only wool and linen is a problem. So if I'm just throwing it on top of me, that I'm not properly benefiting from it, then it'll be a problem. Any two materials, it doesn't make sense. If I'm wearing it properly as a clothing, my entire body is benefiting from it. From this mixture. Amarta, you say in the Torah, tzemra pishtim, only wool and linen is a problem. Everything else not. Hello. Isn't it obvious that putting it on top of me not as a proper clothing is not a problem unless it's tzemra pishtim? Elo de Rav Papa bedusai. What Rav Papa says, loosely translated, is made up. In other words, it's not a proper answer. It doesn't fit to the rules of Torah. We cannot accept this answer. It doesn't go. Okay, so they have the word of the Rebbe's father, Reb Leivik, and whenever it says in the Gemara bedusai that it's made up, so that's the way it was given to Moshe Rabbeinu. This is the answer, and then we declare that it's made up. So it's an answer that had to be presented, and it has some teichen of Torah to it, some kedusha to it, and then part of that kedusha is expressed in the fact that we push off that answer and we say it's made up, we cannot accept it. Okay, so let's see what we said over here. First of all, we said that Rava holds that according to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, other materials could become tomei if it's large, if it's 3 by 3 tefachim onwards. Where does he learn it out from? By shrotzim, it says oi beged, an additional type of clothing, other materials. Abaye says no. It's coming to add by shrotzim 3 by 3 etzbos. The logic behind it is Rava holds that when the Torah says by tzaras v'ha beged, and it's including 3 by 3 etzbos, it's teaching me the translation of beged. Beged means even that small piece of cloth, and therefore it applies everywhere. And therefore, if I have an extra pasuk by shirotzim, oy beged, then it's coming to add another material. Abaye says, no. Ver beged is telling me a din. Beged means really useful from 3 tvachim onwards. Ver beged is adding another din. That even 3 by 3 etzbos. Now, when I have 2 halachas, shirotzim and tzaras, each has a chumrah over the other. Each is more strict than the other in a different way. Tzaras is more strict that even threads could become tummy. Shrotzim are more strict that a smaller size, the size of a lentil, could make tummy. So if the Torah writes us halach in either one of them, we cannot learn to the other. So the Torah has to write it in each one of them. And once the Torah has to write it in each one of them, so we have no extra pasuk to teach us other materials, so that's it. Other materials are not mekabel. Fine. Then Abaye presented a problem. The problem was that we had a second brayso from the same yeshiva Rabbi Yishmael, which said something which contradicts the first one according to everyone seemingly, according to Abaye and Rav. Tanud Rabbi Shmuel, even Rav agreed, say that other materials are not mekabel tumah altogether, seemingly because it says afkol, just like tzaras, it doesn't apply to anything but wool and linen. So to all other halachas, so we assume that means shrotzim. And then a second brayso says that we learn from oy beged that other materials are mekabel tumah. So it contradicts the first son of Rabbi Shmuel. Says Rava, you know what? I changed my mind. I said earlier there's a machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Shmuel. No, there's no machlokes. They both hold against Abaye. They both hold that larger than 3 by 3 tefachim is mekabel tumah. in other materials, and therefore it matches to the second Tanna Rabbi Shmuel. Then the Gemara said, no, we might have misquoted it slightly, and we might have really had it. Rava might have stayed with his own old opinion, and then he's stuck with a question like Abaye, that is a contradiction of two brises of Tanna Rabbi Shmuel. Rav Papa offered a different answer. Rav Papa said that when the brisa says af kol, all other halachas also only apply to wool and linen, it means that shatnez applies only to wool and linen. What shatnez? It's a pasuk. Lo silba shatnez semer upishtim. Okay, but that's lo silba. Don't wear it as a clothing. Ubeget kilayim shatnez lo yalo alecha. A mixture should not go on top of you. There it doesn't say semer upishtim. So you would have thought that any mixture should not go on top of you. If you wear it properly as a clothing, fine. But if you just put it on top of you and you're protecting from the rain or from the sun, that's a problem. Says, how could he say that? I mean, and therefore you have to have you have to learn out from the goyim that it's only wool and linen. So how could he even think that? How could he even think that? It's a kal v'chomer. If to wear it properly, it's only wool and linen. Then to just put it on top of me, of course, it's only wool and linen. So we cannot accept Rav Papa's answer. So either we're stuck with a contradiction, or we accept, according to one version, what Rava divided, that one's talking about 3 by 3 etzvahs, and one's talking about 3 by 3 tzvah. We're still going to offer another explanation. Okay. Say that.